Okay, so basically, yeah, so we were just saying we're going to focus on narrative today, yeah? We will come to that later. Uh, okay, right. So before we even go to the questions in your homework, right? The homework that has been assigned to you on the student's account, we will learn about how to make evaluative judgments. So basically, evaluative questions, we always have this acronym, not sure if your school cover it. Lie, okay, literal, inferential, and evaluative questions. Okay, these are generally the three main types, but of course, on top of that, there are other kinds of questions like maybe language use questions or even to sort of like capture the gist of each paragraph. I think that will also be found in your narrative text as well, right? The one that you have to select the word that best describes the mood of a particular paragraph. Okay, so that's another type of question. But generally, these are the three main types. At secondary school level, you realize that there will be very little literal questions because you are in secondary school. You should be able to make your own judgment. You should be able to make an inference as well. So there will be very little literal questions. Okay. Majority will be your inferential questions. Okay, but there will be some that are evaluative also. So evaluative tests your ability to evaluate what you are reading. Okay, so such question moves on from your literal and inferential levels to ask you to make judgment. Okay, so later on we'll look at some examples. Yeah. So in order to make an evaluation, this kind of question is really using your understanding of a given text to make you think outside of the text. So you have to see how these ideas contained within the text actually stand up in the real world. Okay, so you must be able to relate when you evaluate. You do need some prior knowledge. That means based on your own experiences and all, to make connections there, right? So this kind of question usually comes in the form of this phrasing. How do they phrase such questions? Number one, they can say, what are the effect on the reader? So, the intended effect or the intended outcome can be an evaluative question. Okay, because it's not inferential. If it's inferential, we are supposed to come up with a prediction of what the writer wants to send as a message. That is inferential question. But evaluative, you are evaluating on the situation based on the ideas in the text and how it relates to the real world. Okay, so that's your evaluation. Okay, next one, you may be asked also, is the writer's view accurate? So you have to make your own judgment and decide whether or not the writer's view is accurate. Okay, or what does this suggest about this? Right? How might this have a positive effect on this? So a lot of times you need to consider, okay, if this happened in the real world, okay, what kind of effect will it have on another thing? Okay. Okay, so when we read a narrative, actually we are already constantly evaluating, wonder where the story is leading and how the characters will deal with the situation. So this one is basically uh a form of making judgment as well. Okay, we are also evaluating the narrative as we go along. Okay, so read the beginning of a narrative, note how you will react to what you read and where you think the narrative is heading. Okay, so I do need some volunteers. The last lesson we started from 昨天. If there are no volunteers, then we will start from the first letter again, then we go down. So everyone will get a chance actually. So if we start from the front, it will be Eiffel. Okay, Eiffel, can you read the first paragraph, please? Yeah, just the first paragraph.
Okay. I said you are afraid, Johan. You are afraid. Go home. I shall return home. The walk will do me good. I took from the car my old walking stick, which I always carry on my holiday excursions, and closed the door. Went back to Munich and said, "Go home or Poogies nudged. Doesn't concern me."
Okay. So from the first paragraph, I mean, they start off a dialogue. It's a way to start your introductory paragraph. I think we learned that in writing, right? So what would you be thinking? Where do you think the narrative is heading? Clearly, there are a few characters who have been introduced already, right, in the first paragraph. Okay, so we know Johan is one of them, right? And this Walpurgis I think is someone's name, probably. Okay, it might be, or maybe a place because it has capital letters. So it's probably a proper noun. It might be a place, it might be a person's name as well. Okay, so these are things that, So you will want to know, it seems like there has been like an argument there somehow. Okay, but we might want to find out more about why did they have that conversation at the beginning? Okay. Next person, let me see. After E is what? F, G. Do we have G? H, no H. I, no I. J, okay, Jianhao. Okay, next paragraph. Jianhao. Jianhao, your mic is not working today. Has it not been working for quite some time? You need to, well, I mean, it might just be our last lesson. But lesson is still ongoing next week, huh? For those of you who need it, please come in. For those of you, of course, if your English paper is over and you find that you want to use your time on other subjects, I think I can understand that as well. Okay. I do understand most of you, I think your exam is next week, right? For English. Anybody's exam is like next week. Who is still joining us for next week? Caitlin, huh? Caitlin, your exam is next week, is it? Okay, right. Anyone else? Exam is next week, or is it just coming week? If it's the coming week, means this will probably be the last one. Yeah. Levon, yours is next week or next week? Okay. So Levon is joining, Caitlin is joining. The rest of you, I suppose, is coming week, so you will not join us for next week's lesson, which I can understand because you have so many other subjects to study for. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, but lesson will still be ongoing next week, and I think the week after next as well. Okay, let me just update you on the date later. I have it somewhere here. Okay. Anyway, Chen House one is not working, which means we have to move on to the next person. J K. K means Caitlin. Caitlin is next. Okay, Caitlin, can you read this next paragraph, please? With a despairing gesture.
With a despairing gesture, Johann turned the car round and set off slowly, perhaps hoping I would change my mind, but it was with a light heart that I turned down the side road through the deepening valley to which Johann had objected. There was not the slightest reason that I could see for his objection, and I dare say I tramped for a couple of hours without thinking of time or distance, and certainly without seeing a person or a house. So far as the place was concerned, it was desolation itself.
Okay, thank you. Right. So over here, I think we are getting a little bit more clarity on what it's about. Right. So this person seems to be leaving. Okay, leaving the place where he was when he was with Johan, right? Hmm. Okay. And it seems like the place that they're heading to is not somewhere desirable as well. Okay, so we'll see if we can find more clues next. After Caitlin will be Kiet Ming. Okay, Kiet Ming, this paragraph here.
the longest paragraph. I sat down to rest and began to look around. It struck me that it was considerably colder than it had been at the commencement of my walk. A sort of sighing sound seemed to be around me, with now and then, high overhead, a sort of muffled roar. There was signs of a coming storm. I was a little chilly, and thinking that it was the sitting still after the exercise of walking, I resumed my journey.
Okay, right. Any words that you might not be sure of? The sort of buffalo. I think this paragraph is quite okay. Okay, next one will be Kiran. Kiran? Larissa, you asked if you can go toilet. I just saw your message now. Please go ahead. Kiran? Kiran's mic is also not working. KL. Okay, we move on. Larissa went to the toilet. Okay, we go with Levon first then. Levon, the ground I passed over.
The ground I passed over was now much more picturesque.
Okay, this one is pronounced as picturesque. Okay, it's not picturesque like queer, right? Because there's a Q there, right? The pronunciation is picturesque. So picturesque, what does it mean? It's basically just means usually it's referring to a scenery. So it's something that's visually attractive. Right? Okay, so the ground I passed over was now much more picturesque, which is like visually attractive. Okay, let's continue.
There
Yvonne?
were no striking objects that the eye might single out, but in all, there was a charm of beauty. I took little notice of time, and it was only when the deepening twilight forced itself upon me that I began to think how I should find my way home. For a while I hesitated. I had said I would see the deserted village. So in the end, I decided to continue and presently came on a wide stretch of open country, shut in by hills all around. I followed with my eyes by the winding of the road and saw that it curved close to one of the densest clumps of trees and it was lost behind it.
Okay, good. Okay, Larissa is back. Thank you. Okay, so in this case, I think it's more of like his journey, or rather his, not really an adventure. It doesn't seem like a great adventure, okay, but it's more of his journey. And like I said, it's not very desirable, the place that he has embarked on, right? The journey he has embarked on to go to this place. And that is like he seems like he was lost, right? Okay, who's next after Levon? LMN. So I guess Natalie. Okay, Natalie is next. Oh, we missed Larissa, right, just now. Okay, maybe Natalie first, then Larissa will read the last one.
As I looked, there came a cold shiver in the air, and the snow began to fall. I hurried to seek shelter afterward. Darker and darker grew the sky, and faster and heavier fell the snow, till the earth before and around me was a glistening white carpet, the further edge of which was lost in the misty vagueness. I was soon